Hey guys, I'm super excited for today because I'm joined by the amazing world-class facilitator, Rebecca Courtney. Hello.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Maddie. So great to be here again. Talking with you again. So nice.
Yes, because I had the chance to have Rebecca on the podcast, but today we are here for something special because Rebecca is going to support the workshop deck library because she's sharing one of her signature activity to close a session. So for those of you who don't know Rebecca, Rebecca is an amazing facilitator. She
Yeah.
worked for the facilitation company AGN Smart. She worked with amazing brand like Lego, and a bunch of different logos that I don't know if I can say the name out there. No,
Yeah.
she's working for herself. She has her own practice where she coach other facilitators so that they can level up their game, they can grow a career that they can be proud of, and that will, I guess, bring food to the table. But I will let Rebecca maybe present herself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Betty. I always get very shy when I'm introduced in such a nice way. So thank you for that introduction. But yeah, I'm Rebecca Courtney. I've recently launched my own facilitation practice. It's a facilitation coaching and training practice, and I'm very proud of it and very excited about how it's all going to grow over the next few years. In the very early stages right now, but basically what I do is I help coaches, facilitators, leaders, anyone who essentially works with groups of people. I help them level up their skills and confidence in facilitation and designing sessions and building their career around this amazing topic of facilitation. And I also go into organizations and companies and help train their teams on facilitation skills and designing sessions that actually can make a difference and make an impact in their companies. And so that's what I'm doing at the very moment. And it's really cool. And I also get to have the privilege of still collaborating with AJ and Smart while I start this journey as well. So it's been an amazing, wild journey so far.
That's really cool. So don't be afraid, guys. She's still there. She's still in the community giving her valuable tips. So and if you still want to work with her like in another way, like please feel free to reach out. We'll put all the information
Yeah.
somewhere, I guess.
LinkedIn
All
is
right.
always good to reach out to me as well. I'm always on LinkedIn. If you know me, you
Uh,
know I basically live there.
all right. That's a good reminder. So you can like reach out to Rebecca on LinkedIn. Rebecca, so in the workshop deck, we stole actually the framework of AG and Smart, the four C's, that you know very well. And
Mhm.
we actually improved it with the community. I don't know if it's an improvement because you also teach those type of things, but like we insist on the first C now being connection and the last C being celebration. So it's all about
Mhm.
making sure that we end the workshop in a high way so that we create this amazing experience, but also we bring clarity to people when before they go back to their real life. And you propose an amazing activity for closing the session. But before we go into this activity, I would like to ask you, why is it so important to put energy on closing a workshop the right way?
Yeah, I love this question, by the way, because I think at the very end of a workshop, this is the moment that you have as a facilitator to make the biggest impact with the group that you work with. People always remember the beginning, the middle, and the end of an experience. And so, whatever way you end a session, it's what people are going to remember with you. They're going to have this feeling of, oh, that was either a really, really memorable session, or if you end it in a bad way or if you wrap it up too quickly, they're going to be like, ugh. And yeah, so designing the ending intentionally is incredibly important for a facilitator to do. And so for me, I always put in this golden rule now as a facilitator. When I'm designing any session, I put this 15-minute time at the very end of the session, in every session that I design, to make sure that I close with intention. And then,
Perfect.
depending on the objective of the workshop or what type of workshop or session I'm designing, I'll put in some sort of activity there to close it properly and end on a high note.
Cool. So you're always making sure that you have at least 15 minutes to close the thing. And then you think about like based on the context, what am
Yeah.
I going to put there to do it properly?
Yeah, totally. And it really depends. Like sometimes I'll have a more reflective close if we've gone through a lot of heavy learning content. If I'm working with a team where there's a focus on connection and bringing them closer together, maybe I'll end with a more gratitude focused close where they're just picking out things that they appreciate about each other. Yeah, it really does depend on the group that I'm working with. And then I design the close for that group in particular.
Okay, that's amazing. And I love that because, like, and I've been a participant recently, so I had a good reminder. Like you go from activity to activity, you don't necessarily like connect the things and you just remember like, oh, this was a bit difficult, this was a bit challenging. So having someone that like manage the closing for me and reminds me of what is really important and or invite me to reflect about what happened, I find it very, yeah, very valuable because it brings me this clarity that I don't necessarily as have as a participant.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and how you design that close, how you design that ending is going to completely shape the whole experience for people. And it's going to be the difference of people calling you back and being like, that was
Oh,
incredible to, like the annoying thing, the frustrating thing that I tell facilitators and see some facilitators do is they design the entire session so perfectly and they bring the group through the whole entire thing so well. And then because they didn't design the ending properly, because they squashed too much content into their session, they finish up with any final thoughts or like, does anybody have any questions? And they just like end the thing, and people are left with this very unsatisfying feeling when they walk out, and they're kind of like, that was great, but also, what are we doing with that experience?
yeah,
What do we do next? It's very unsatisfying.
it feels like there was no real ending. Like, those type of movies where like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how it ends.
Yeah, this kind of open loop, and it feels not nice. It really doesn't feel nice for a group of people. Yeah, wrapping everything up in a nice bow, closing with intention, and making sure that that group really feels that end, that this kind of feeling of, oh, we've been through this experience, this is what we've learned from it, and this is what we're going to do next. That giving a group that feeling is such a gift.
That's okay. Thanks for sharing, Rebecca. So you propose an activity called highlight lowlight headlights for doing a closing. Can you tell me a bit more about this activity?
Yes, of course. Okay, so I absolutely love this activity for ending a workshop where a lot has gone on. So, if you've done a lot of problem solving, making a lot of decisions, and a lot has actually happened in the session, and you want a group to really slow down and remember the key moments throughout that session, and also leave with some clear next steps to follow, then this is the perfect exercise. It actually came from my teaching days. It was developed from an activity that I used to do with kids when I was teaching children back in the day before I became a facilitator. And it really helped the children to just really lock in the learnings that I was teaching them. And then I started bringing it into my facilitation and my work with adults, and it just actually worked even better because I adapted it. I adapted it and I made it a bit more practical, and now it's something I always use. It's a staple activity I use. And so the whole idea behind it is that at the very end of the session you leave about 15 minutes, as I said, the golden rule. 15 minutes in total, or 20 minutes if you want to go deeper into a discussion for this activity. And you're basically getting people to reflect on their highlights from the session. So what was their biggest takeaway, let's say? What was their biggest insight, and why does that matter? So getting people to write on sticky notes, or let's say you could print a template for this as well if you want, giving time to think about that question first. And then the second prompt is the low light. So think about something that, you could have felt maybe there's another question or something that they still have in their head that hasn't been answered. So get people to think about that, or something that could be improved if they were to do this again. And then the third prompt, which is probably the most important prompt, is the headlight. And this question you're asking the group here to reflect on is, what is the next concrete step that you'll take? And when will you put that into action? So you really want the group to come away from the session with some action steps instead of just like, that was a great session. I'm not going to do anything after this workshop. You want them to actually put the learnings and put the insights that they've taken away from the session into action. And so that's why this three prompt reflection works so well with every group.
Yeah, and what I love in this activity is that the first thing that you do is that you invite them to reflect first about the experience, about what they went through, to answer those questions themselves, and then they share it with the group, right? That's how it works.
Totally. Yeah, so it's kind of this idea of what I like to call think, write, pair, share.
Mhm.
And so you're thinking alone first, you're writing your answers to your prompts first, and then you're turning to, let's say, your neighbor or whoever you're sitting next to. You can share some of your insights with that one person. And then what I like to do then as a whole group is ask, does somebody want to share something that they noticed going through that exercise or going through that reflection. And I pick out a few people who have their hands up who would like to bring their insights to the whole group. And so it's a really nice layered reflection exercise where everybody can like cross pollinate their learnings, their insights, their takeaways.
Yeah, and I think because what is very nice, and I was like almost became jealous because you said that you were doing that with your students. I was like, oh, I didn't have the same experience as a student in Belgium. Like they don't know about reflection and those type of things, especially since you were working with small kids, so they were lucky in a way. But
Mhm,
what is also nice with this activity is that it's versatile. Like you could use it at the end of a training,
mhm.
but also at the end of a workshop, right?
Totally, totally. Or you can use it at different parts of a session as well. So it's perfect at the very end of a workshop training or any experience that you design or go through with a group. But let's say you do a workshop exercise that's really heavy in terms of getting the group to think. It's a challenging exercise that you're bringing them through. If you want them to do a bit of a reflection after something like that, where you think that the reflection will actually bring more to the session, it's really
Mm.
nice to plant it in there after that particular exercise. And it doesn't have to be so like it's versatile in that you don't have to have it as a written exercise all the time. It could just be like a open conversation. So you could do it as a whole group after a workshop exercise where you could ask the group to think about, okay, so what do we think went well with that exercise? Or what was one thing that you learned about that exercise? And you could make it like a big open group discussion if you wanted to. So it's versatile in that you can just plant it anywhere. But I find it the most effective at the very end of a session when you get them to do the full thing with writing it down, sharing with their neighbor, and then sharing it out to the group.
Something that like you mentioned in the beginning of the explanation, and you said like you can even use a template. Like, is it like a printed document that you give to people and they do it
Yeah,
individually?
yeah.
That's how you see it?
I have a printed template that I give out to participants. It was just something I created back in the day and I kept changing it and iterating and now it's just this thing that I have. I find that helpful. However, sometimes I want them to be more creative and have more freedom with the activity. And I just allow them write their reflections on post-its. And sometimes I even in the instructions, I can say that they can write their answers to the prompts or they can draw their answers to the prompts.
Mm.
So I give them creative freedom in terms of how they want to respond to each prompt. And a lot of people actually draw their responses when you invite them to do that. And it actually creates even a nicer conversation when they're in their pairs and when they're sharing it out. I give them the option to write their answers to the prompts or draw.
Yeah, so it's a very inclusive way of closing it because like first it's individual thinking and then they can share and they're sharing in small groups, giving them multiple options. So either you
Mhm.
write or you draw. So I really love that because you don't have the comment, yeah, I don't feel comfortable sketching. Like you have the option, like choose what is
Yeah.
best for you. So thanks, like this works really nice.
Yeah.
Also, when you share the activity with me, and because I know, like, I really like the fact of visualizing information. If you work with
Mhm.
sticky notes, what is also really cool is that you could have like the visualization of all the highlights, all the lowlights, and all the headlights. And you
Totally.
can even maybe like prioritize like some of them, like
Hmm.
because if you want to improve your training session or your workshop, or just find like what are the common points that we need to do after the session, could
Yeah,
be also interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, like there's so much that you can do with that data. First of all, it's so nice as the facilitator to be able to take a picture of that and a picture of people's reflections and
Mm,
add that to, like, give that to the client afterwards. Because, like, for me as a facilitator, I like I put a keynote together as my parting gift when I work with clients.
nice.
A lot of it is like lots of different pictures and maybe a storyline of what we did together. And that's always a nice thing to add at the end, just a visual of people's reflections. So, yeah, you can do that as like a here's what we did kind of thing. But as you said, you can do so much with that data for you as a facilitator too, like pick out the things that people are having, are still finding challenging, the questions they might still have, or also for the group that you work with, those headlights, those action things that they might put into action over the next few weeks. They could be actually really valuable next steps for them to use. And also, just another way, like talking about versatility in terms of using this exercise, I also use it myself as a facilitator to reflect on my own
Mm,
work. So not only do I give it to the participants to reflect on the workshop experience, but I do it myself after a training, a workshop, or some sort of thing I facilitate. I reflect on me. And it's a great tool to have for yourself as a facilitator to continuously improve your own development and growth.
yeah, definitely. One of my favorite book is called Grit. I don't know if you read the book. It's
Grit?
by
I don't
Grit. You
think
know, it's a mix of perseverance and passion.
I haven't
Show
read that
like
yet.
the you really show it's really cool book. It's like the biggest ingredient of successful people is grit. Because
Hmm.
like Cristiano Ronaldo, those guys are still willing to do all those extra efforts because they love the game, but they love to getting better. And she talks about like if you really want to improve, it's about deliberate practice. So
Mm,
you want to have clear in mind what you want to improve. And at the end, you want to take a step back and reflect and get feedback and
hmm.
see where you are based on what you wanted to improve. So the fact
Yeah.
that you're doing it yourself, like, okay, I've done this. If you were clear before the session on what you wanted to improve, and then you're looking at this reflection with the feedback, this is really how you're going to improve. Not just
Hmm.
by, yeah, I need to practice, but then if you practice without having goals and without doing some reflection and feedback,
Yeah.
how do you know if you're getting better?
Totally. And it's so easy to forget these things. It's so good to do this reflection at the very end yourself, like just right after that experience. So everything is fresh in your
Mm,
head because it's so easy to forget those things that you feel like, oh, I should have done that differently. Those
mm,
things just pop out of your head. And I think like facilitators, like a lot of my teaching years and when I did my teaching practice, reflection was such a huge part of my work. And then when I went into the facilitation space, it was very, very sparse. It just wasn't really mentioned. And then I found when I was bringing it into the workshops that I was leading, there was this kind of not a stigma against it, but it was seen as this kind of fluffy thing,
mm,
like, oh, that's a bit cheesy, or we don't need to do that. It's not valuable. But reflecting on an experience or exercises that you've just been brought through, even if it's short little bursts after each thing you do with a group, it's incredibly important. Like, if you don't do that, you're leaving more than 50% of the learning on the table for a group. And so, yeah, any type of reflection, I sprinkle lots of reflective moments in throughout my workshops. And then I always make sure to have a big one, a big reflection piece at the very end of my sessions too, so people can actually remember what just happened.
yeah, I think it's very nice what you said, and I've been guilty of that. And I had this discussion with Romy Alexandra about learning experience
Mm.
design, and this is why like this principle of ask first and tell. Like it really resonated with me. I tried it, and then I saw the value of doing that. And it's funny that you said fluffy. That was all my my perception about it. But then yeah, like a
Totally.
lot of people actually really need that, and yeah, and it's gonna stick to them because they came up to
Hmm.
their own conclusion and their own things that they want to
Yeah.
implement, not like because Rebecca told me I should do that.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's like I remember I felt this tension a lot of the times at the beginning when I started bringing in this reflection element into my facilitation. People being like, "Ugh, we don't need to reflect on this part again." But every time they go into the reflective exercise or moment, so much comes out of it. That's when the aha moments actually come to life, and you see these like you can see the expressions on people's faces of learning from each other's insights too. And yeah, it is always extremely valuable, even if you feel resistance from the group initially. I would always suggest to do it and to have these reflection moments throughout.
You know your craft. You shouldn't doubt because you see some faces say, "Oh, it's gonna be awkward." Okay, awesome. So thanks a lot, Rebecca. Do you have any tips or like moments where this can be tricky that you want to give? And if there are not, I don't see any that could happen, but let me know.
Yeah, so I feel like it could be tricky to bring this type of exercise into a session where there's some sessions at the very end you actually want to bring a group up versus down, and I think this is just balancing the energy in a session anyway. So if you feel like you've had enough reflection moments throughout a session, then I would avoid using another reflection exercise at the very end of a workshop and use something else like your amazing gratitude poncho exercise is an incredible way to end a session intentionally. So the only times I would say not use it is if you've done enough like winding a group down throughout the session and they need something more high energy. But other than that, I believe it fits into most workshops, trainings, lessons, whatever group experience you're designing.
Okay, that's thanks for the tips. I think maybe in training it makes sense, and you know better than me that to have multiple reflection moments. But
Mm-hmm.
indeed, in a workshop, it feels like even if it could be valuable, like the workshop is already packed with what the client wants to get.
Yeah,
So I think definitely having it at the end when makes a lot of sense and is great. Um,
totally.
okay, thank you a lot for sharing this activity with us. I think it's going to be a cool one and probably going to be used by a lot of facilitators thanks to you.
Oh, well, I hope so.
So guys, if you're not doing it already, like follow Rebecca Courtney on LinkedIn if you want great facilitation tips. I think she's one of the most regular content creator on the platform, so you definitely want to check her out. And I think she was also have a newsletter, right? Like,
Yeah, so right now I have it's like a 7-day email series that I have created. And actually, it's very similar to what we're talking about. It's the whole idea is I'm sharing 7 activities that I think all facilitators, leaders, trainers, people who work with groups should use and should have in their toolkit. And it's all designed around like designing for the opening, the energy, and closing workshop, all the moments that wrap around the content. That's what these activities are related to. And so, yeah, that's on my LinkedIn, or if you want to go to RebeccaCourtney.com, it's there too. And you can sign up for that if you want some activities to put in your back pocket.
amazing. All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank
Uh,
you.
l- we see each other very soon. Like anytime you have an activity you want to share with your audience, like feel free to reach out.
Oh, thank you so
I
much.
will
I'd
be
love that.
chasing you again.
Do keep chasing. No, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy talking about these exercises and, yeah, facilitation tips and techniques that work. As you know yourself, there's so many out there. It's nice to distill a few down and have them all in one place so that it's not too overwhelming.
Yeah. And then you have FOMO. I need to try this one. Is it going to
Yeah.
work or not? Like having this curated list from experts like you is like give us like the reassurance, like, okay, we can trust the activity. If
Hmm.
I want to try something new, I have it here. It works. So let me adapt it to my own context and it will deliver. So thanks for
Exactly.
sharing, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you for having
See you
me.
guys. I hope you enjoyed this special
Bye.
episode. Bye bye.
I'm like, bye. I said bye too early. No, thanks, Medi. It was lovely.